Hello, this is Billy. Today I'm working on a 2000 Lexus GS300. Today I will be replacing the air control valve, and that would be the part number for it. Okay, now that we've got the hood open, the first thing we're going to need to do is take this plastic cover off. There's a bolt here. It's a 10 millimeter, another one over here, another one back here, and another one back here. So once we pull these little nuts off, this plastic cover just lifts off, and that's a 10 millimeter. Okay, so now that the plastic cover is out of the way, you can actually see exactly where the control valve is. This right here, this is the air control valve. So we're gonna need to disconnect this line here. Just squeeze right here and pull, and that unplugs. Just pull it out of the way. Same thing with the other side. This plug over here. Just squeeze right here and unplug it. Squeeze right here, and then unplug that. Okay, now we're gonna need a little bit of room to get the Phillips screwdriver into these little screws. So this timing belt cover, we're going to move that out of the way, and it gives us a little bit of room to get the tool in there. This Allen wrench right here, this is a 5. So I'm going to start loosening those up real quick. On that timing belt cover, there are 4 little Allen heads. There's one right here. There's one straight across on the other side, and then right here, 1 and 2. So you got 2 over here, and then 1 here and 1 there. And I just loosened them up with the little 5 Allen wrench. We're gonna pull this cover off and come right back. Okay, so now that the timing belt cover is out of the way, it gives our tool a little more room to be able to get down here to this little screw and these other little screws down at the bottom. So now we're ready to and this would be a good time to do a visual inspection on the timing belt. Make sure you don't see no cracks or anything that's to worry about. So these 2 screws, there's one here and one here. We're going to pull both of those screws so that we can wiggle this thing out. I'm going to go ahead and get those screws out and be right back. Okay, well, I do strongly recommend rigging up a little wrench like this. See, the deal was that bottom screw is hard to get a good fit on with the regular screwdriver. So with a setup like this, what I'm able to do is put it in there, and back here on the head of the ratchet, I'm able to push so that it doesn't strip out. It comes out nice and clean. So I do highly recommend something like that, because trying to get a screwdriver in there and turning on it, unfortunately, you're gonna possibly end up messing the Phillips head screw up. So, alrighty, I'm gonna go ahead and get those screws out and come right back. Okay, so now with both of those 2 little screws out, this piece right here just comes right out. Now this is a funny little piece. The way this thing works is this inside piece turns like this, and if you'll notice on the inside of it, it's flat there on that left side, and on this side it's got that flat spot there. And always keep in mind the rotation, how it only goes this way. If you try to go the other way with it, it won't go. You see this piece inside here also will only go one way. It will go this way, but it will not go back the other way. Putting this little piece back together is a little bit tricky. When we do go to put this thing back together, the trick to this piece is to, so when you're trying to look at the little bolt holes and line those up, it just doesn't go in the way it's supposed to. So what you want to do is you want to twist the part a little bit like this, and then make it pushed on, and you see how it's not lined up? Well, that's the direction you're going to want to go, okay? When you put this thing on, you're going to want to have it on like this and then twist it back. When you put it on like that, then the inside of it here and there will both be lined up properly so that it works the way you want that it's supposed to work. So we'll do that when we go back together. I just wanted to go ahead and cover it now. Okay, so now that we've got that off, we'll set this to the side, and then we will pull this little screw, this little screw, this little screw, this little screw, and there's a little screw down here by the little wire there. We'll get all those little screws out, and all they are is holding on this little plastic cover. This little plastic cover that covers the air throttle control, the air idle control valve. Okay, so I'm gonna start taking those screws out and come right back. Okay, so on this plastic cover here, you have a little Phillips screw here, 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 here. And this one down here is hard to see because when this thing is all the way on, you can barely even see that it's there. If you're forceful with pulling this as a whole body, make sure you grab the whole body really good and forcefully pull this out. This is just a little metal plate that this piece is on, okay? And then you can get to this one a lot easier to see. And when you put it all back together, this little piece of metal, this little metal clip right here, I've already loosened it a little bit. It just slides on and holds the wire up off away from the motor and everything. So it is going to be a little fun, but just forcefully pull that out and it'll slide back like that, and then you can loosen this one. So now I'm going to go ahead and get these screws out so that we can set this plastic cover to the side, and I'm going to make sure that I don't drop this little piece of metal clip here. Okay, we'll be right back. Okay, so now that we've got those screws out of the way, this little plastic cover is ready to come off. There is a little bit of a trick to taking this thing out and as well as putting it back in. I'll show you. Whenever you come out with this thing, it just pulls, just wiggle it a little bit and it comes out like that. Now when you're trying to get out, it's like, how do I get this thing out? What you want to do is this end of it, lower this end down. So like lower it down like that. That's how you get this to go down, and then this will come out. And same thing, when you're putting this thing back in, just keep this end of it, get it like this, keep this end down. I don't know if you can see that very good, but you see how I've got it kind of down? Have that down like that, and then it wiggles into place. That's how you get that back on, because it's fun if you're just trying to figure out how to get it in there, and without it, that little tip goes a long way. So we're going to set this little plastic cover to the side. Okay, come right back. Okay, now we've got a really good visual of the air control valve. This is the air control valve. It has a screw up here and a screw right there, and then another screw right there. So we're going to take those 3 screws out, and then this piece just comes out. Okay, I've pulled those 3 screws out. Now this piece just comes out like this. It just comes right out, no trick to it. So this would be my old air control valve. So now I'm going to get the new air control valve and put this thing right back together in reverse order, and I'll go through it with you. Okay, I've got my old one sitting there on the curb, and the new one, I just took it out of the box. So now we're just doing a quick little visual inspection to make sure it looks identical, and it appears to be identical. So now we're going to go back under the car and start putting this in. Okay, now I'm just going to, you'll notice right here where my finger's pointing right there, you'll notice that that little nipple that's sitting out there, that little nipple right there, lines up with that little hole that's just to the left side of where the screw goes through. So when you put this thing in, just line that up, and boom, it's that easy. It just goes right in like it's supposed to. Nothing tricky or hard about it. So now I'm going to grab the screws and get those back in. Okay, so I've got the screws in. There's that one and that one and then that one over there. When you put these screws in, you don't want to tighten them too much. Okay, so when it gets a little bit tight, that's plenty. Okay, you don't want it too loose, so just don't, whatever you do, just make sure you don't tighten it too much. So just tighten it, and when it's tight, that's good. Okay. Okay, now I believe we're ready to get the plastic cover back over it. So just like I was explaining earlier, I'm going to get this in there, and then when I do, I've got this in tilted down. That way it will pop into place. There it goes. Just get it to go into place, and you'll notice that this piece slides into that little plastic rubber and stuff. So we'll just get that in like it's supposed to be, and I'll start putting these little plastic cover screws back in, and we'll be right back. Okay, this is that little metal clip that holds the little wire harness into place. And what I was wanting to show you is on the side, right above the hole where the screw goes in, is that little nipple there. Well, that little nipple is going to go inside that little hole. So when you put it on, it's going to go on there like that, with that little nipple going through that little hole. That's how that goes on. Okay, same thing with these little plastic cover screws. Once you get them tight, that's plenty. You don't want to over tighten them. Now we're ready to get this little wire back on the little metal piece there. Now I'm just going to force it into place, and you can see on the back side that little piece of metal is going to slide right in there. And if you had a hard time getting that to come off that little plate, it's because it's going to actually click. There's a little piece of plastic in there that's going to click. So when I push it in, it's going to click into place. So here we go. We're going to push it until it clicks, and boom, click, it's done. So now that's in place. So now we're ready to start putting this little guy here, this piece that goes over that hole. We're ready to put that back on. And same thing I was explaining before. This piece is a little bit tricky. So what you're going to do is when you put it into place, you see how I've got it I don't have those holes lined up like this. You try to do it like this and you're going to have issues, trust me. So what you want to do is you're going to rotate this thing like this. Okay, you're going to slightly to the right and get the rest of it to where it feels like it's on there good. See, like that. And once it's on there like that, then you're going to rotate it back. And see, once you've got it like that, now you're ready to get your screws in there. So that's how you do that. I'm going to go ahead and get my screws in. Okay, now that I've got these two screws in and this piece is put in correctly, when I put these screws in, I put them just a little tight, just because I'm probably going to have to play with it. And the reason why I'm going to have to play with it is because the idle of the car fluctuates up or down by the position of this. That little hole that's slotted, so this piece you can wiggle it up or wiggle it down, and it changes the idle of the car. So if it's revving really high and it doesn't sound correctly, just loosen both of those just a little tiny bit. Just loosen them enough to where you can wiggle it around, and just wiggle it up or wiggle it down until it sounds correct to your ears. When it sounds correct, then you just want to tighten it down into that place. So just remember that. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and get these wires plugged in. We're going to plug this one in over here, and then we're going to plug this one in over here. Okay, at this point would be a good time for me to see how the car is idling. So I'm going to start the car up, and most likely have to go up or down with this, which is just, I'm going to slightly twist it just to till the motor sounds good to me. When I like the way it sounds, I'm going to tighten it down in that spot. So that's what I'm fixing to do right now. Okay, now we still got our timing belt cover off, so be very careful because this is rotating here and you don't want to get hurt by this rotating stuff here. So be very careful. In the event, I just started my car. It's idling very fast, so just like I thought, I was going to have to play with that a little bit. So I'm going to loosen this top screw just a little, and I'm going to loosen that bottom screw just a tiny bit so that I can wiggle it. And wiggle this, you'll see the motor, the sound of the motor will change as I wiggle this. Okay, I just loosened that little screw, just barely. I mean, I barely loosened it, and I barely loosened that bottom one. See, now I can wiggle this. And when I wiggle this, you'll notice the sound of the motor changes. So what I want to do is I want to find the spot where the motor sounds normal to me, which for my vehicle, about right there sounds pretty good. So now I've got a good visual that that's what I want it to look like when I tighten it down. I'm going to go ahead and do that. Okay, I just tightened them back. And when I tighten it, you don't want to tighten it too much. You know, just a little tight, plenty good. You just don't want it to move. All of these little tiny screws and all that, you don't want to get carried away and tighten it too much. You can cause yourself more headache. So once it's tight, just call it good. So I've gotten it tight, and the car is sounding good to my ears. This is the way I like it to sound. So now I'm going to go ahead and turn the car off. Okay, well, I just turned the car off, and when I went inside the car to turn the car off, I played with the gas pedal a little bit. I went up and down with the gas pedal a little bit just to make sure I liked it, and I do. Sounds good. So if I was done with just replacing only the air control valve, all I would need to do now is to replace the timing belt cover and those 4 little Allen head screws, and the big plastic cover for the top of the motor. It just falls right into place, and you got these you got one here, you got one here, and you got one back here and one back here. So in any event, if I was only doing the air control valve, I'd go ahead and put that back together.